far back as victory.
It's your last chance to shop July 4 savings at Lowe's. Right now, get up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 7/12. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
DeMaurice Smith, president of the National Football League Players Association, is calling for the NFL to get rid of the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was implemented 20 years ago with the intent of improving diversity hiring in the NFL, specifically black head coaches. Smith called the Rooney Rule a failure. When the NFL implemented the Rooney Rule in 2003, the league had 2 black head coaches. 20 years later, only 3 of the league's 32 teams have a black head coach entering the 2023 season. Francis Tiafoe, the only black American male competing at Wimbledon, has a second-round match this morning with Dominic Stricker of Switzerland. The 25-year-old Tiafoe is ranked 10th in the world. He's trying to win his first Grand Slam tennis major. The Dodgers wrap up their 4-game series with Pittsburgh tonight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our 3rd year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the 2nd consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the black community directly from black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks.
All's my life I has to fight. All's my life I hard times like yeah, bad trips like yeah. Nazareth, I'm f***ed up, homie, you f***ed up, but if God got us, then we gon' be alright.
We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Huh? We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gon' be alright.
And when I wake up, I recognize you looking at me for the pay cut. Bahamas, I be looking at you from the face down. 1 Mac 11, even boom with the bass down. Scheming, and let me tell you about my life. Painkillers only put me in the twilight. We're pretty Benjamin is the highlight. Now tell my mama I love her, but this what I like. Lord knows, 20 of them in my Chevy. Tell them all to come and get me, reaping everything I sow. So my karma come in heaven, no preliminary hearings on my record. I'm a gangster in silence for the record. Tell the world I know it's too late. Boys and girls, I think I've gone great. Trying to decide my vices all day. Won't you please believe when I say, when you know we've been hurt, been down before. When our pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? And we hate po-po, when the killer's dead in the street for sure. I'm at the preacher's door, my knees getting weak and my gun might blow, but we gon' be alright.
We gon' be alright, we gon' be alright, we gon' be alright. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show here on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for our fearless leader, our brother Tavis Smiley, who is off today. I am delighted to be standing in, if that's even possible, for Tavis today. So much happening in the world, but before I get to some headlines, I want to remind you all to stay in touch. I'm in touch, and so you stay in touch. You know who used to say that all the time? Barbara Walters. I'm in touch, so you be in touch. Yeah. Miles, our sound engineer, is like, who? Yes, the legendary Barbara Walters used to say that, and so I am amplifying that today. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DrNiiQuartelai. But hey, shortcut. If you just put in Dr. Nii, DrNii, then I'll pop right on up. It's just that easy, right? And so, please stay in touch that way. Also, every single Sunday right here on KBLA Talk 1580, I hope you're listening to A More Perfect Union. We are about the business of building a more perfect union, really steering the voices of change makers, newsmakers, lawmakers, the folks in the arena doing the heavy lifting among us. Those are the folks that I enjoy talking about. Those are some of the issues that I enjoy talking about each and every Sunday. And so be sure to tune in 10 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific time. And then we replay again at 10 p.m. on Sundays. And so you listen to us on the 10s. That's what we mean by the 10s. 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Pacific time. And also be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never, ever, 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 ever miss an episode. Just carry us everywhere you go. There's a lot of people that are outside because it's the summertime, right? And so you can carry us outside by way of downloading the KBLA 1580 app. You can listen to me and Tavis and Dominique and everybody live, or you can listen to the podcast versions of our shows as well. You don't want to miss those. Also, since we're doing church announcements, I want to encourage everybody to check out Outfest Los Angeles. I proudly serve on the board of Outfest at a time where we see so many members of our community and of our family under attack by people on the right. People wanting to ban our history and to ban the contributions and memories of some of the leaders and luminaries that have contributed to our liberation, to our freedom. This is a good time to invest in storytellers, to invest in the storytellers among us, the people that are leading culture change among us. And that's a big part of the reason why I'm a part of the board of Outfest and why I believe in the mission so much. And I'm so excited that there are almost a dozen Black films that will be screened at Outfest Los Angeles July 13th through the 23rd, right here in the City of Angels, right here in Los Angeles. And so go to outfest.org/attend and get your ticket. Get your ticket. Come on out. Let's support our Black storytellers, people that are unapologetically Black, unapologetically progressive, and that are on the front lines of leading culture change. And so please, please, please come out and check out those films. And while you're out there, say hello to me. I'm not in LA 100% of the time. And so when I'm here, I like to see y'all outside. Or in this case, it'll be inside and air conditioned. And so be sure to do that. In the news, I'm really excited about this, and I have a feeling that many of you are. The exonerated member of the Central Park Five wins the primary for the New York City Council seat. We are so excited that Yusef Salaam, one of the exonerated Central Park Five, has won a Democratic primary for a seat on the New York City Council, all but assuring him of eventual victory. It is an improbable feat for a political novice who was wrongly accused, convicted, and imprisoned as a teenager for the rape and beating of a white jogger in Central Park. Salaam campaigned to represent Central Harlem on the city council. The Associated Press refrained from calling the race on election night, but additional votes released Wednesday showed him to be the clear winner. Salaam and the four other Black and Latino teens from Harlem became known as the Central Park Five after their arrest in 1985 in the headline-grabbing rape, one of the city's most notorious and racially fraught crimes. He served nearly 7 years in prison before the group was exonerated through DNA evidence. Now, Salaam declared victory on election night with a vote tally barely exceeding 50%, although an unknown number of absentee ballots had yet to be counted. Now, this is just a reminder that every vote matters. Every vote matters. For those folks that in Harlem who on election day might have said, well, I'm not sure if I want to go vote or if I'm going to put this pot roast in the oven. I'm not sure if I'm going to go vote, or if I'm, going to go do something else that may be more fun, right? Well, our nation thanks the people of Harlem, the residents of Harlem, that came out and cast their ballot and made history. It made history, and he is living proof. Yusef Salaam is living proof, that, we are always better, than the worst experiences that we've had, that we are the sum of many experiences, and he's going to be taking those experiences to New York City Hall to make life better for the people of Harlem. And for that, we are grateful to him and to all the people of Harlem that supported this brother. When we come forward, another distinguished brother in our midst, Dr. David Johns. He's the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, and he has a lot to say in the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision, a lot to say about issues impacting our communities, and so many issues in the headlines. We just can't wait to get to Dr. David Johns. When we come forward, you're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Good thing we've got 3 hours.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
Want my secret for how to prep for summer getaways and get-togethers and get everything for less? Get to Kohl's. I just went and saved an extra 20% on sunny day essentials, like tees for my husband for $9.99, an adorable sport for my daughter, plus all the grilling tools we needed for a great barbecue. So get to Kohl's and save on cool finds for hot days. You'll thank me later. Select styles, 20% offer ends July 9. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Delivery's at the door. Can someone please unlock?
It's been an eventful afternoon with a spike in bookings at Claudia's event space.
We'd love to host Mermaid Fest.
She was already planning on having more event planners on hand.
500? That's a lot of tails.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times. Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for our brother Tavis while he enjoys the day off. And so many issues in the headlines, including the California reparations report. Everybody's talking about it. How the report excludes payment plan, but is chock full of program proposals. That's right. California's highly anticipated reparations report that was released just this past Thursday outlines how Black Californians can receive monetary compensation for the harms of slavery and systemic racism. Now, the task force proposed more than 100 statewide policies to address generations of discrimination and racial disparities. Still, the report does not issue a concrete dollar amount owed to people who are able to demonstrate that they are the descendants of either an enslaved African American in the United States or a free African American living in the United States prior to 1900. The final report follows a 500-page interim report released last year that detailed legacies of slavery on California's Black residents. The report was a scathing indictment of the ways that the state was complicit in at the time, an active leader of innumerable harms against the Black community. And so shout out to Shirley Weber, Dr. Shirley Weber, who serves as our Secretary of State here in California. She's been a guest on my show, A More Perfect Union, here on KBLA Talk 1580. She's also been a guest right here on the Tavis Smiley Show many times. And, you know, this idea of creating this California Reparations Task Force really came from Dr. Shirley Weber and so many members of the California Legislative Black Caucus. And so, you know, we're going to see where this thing goes. I happen to believe that folks seem to be a little hyper-focused on the cash payment component of it. And I think there is an opportunity for us to lean into some of the radical imagination that's been a part of the development of so many of these proposals. I mean, what would it look like if, black folks for the next 100 or 200 years here in California were tax-free? We're taxed like a nonprofit. I don't know if that made it into the recommendations, but we have plenty of time to look during our summer reading. But right now, I want to welcome a friend, Shermichael Singleton. He is a political commentator. He's host of the Shermichael Singleton Show on Sirius XM. He is a contributor to Vox Media's Consider It, their current affairs digital show that airs weekly on Facebook Watch. He is an incredible brother. And though our politics may be different, we are in community. Make no mistake about that. And so welcome to the Tavis Smiley Show, Shermichael.
Hey, man. Thanks for reaching out to me, bro. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on. There are so many issues in the news. You might have just heard me talking about the report, the final report that came out of the California Reparations Task Force. This was highly anticipated. Highly anticipated. A lot of folks across the country and really around the world have been paying attention to what California might come up with. And so I'm curious as to what your take is on, this quest for reparations, this movement for reparations at large, and if you have any take on what recently came out of this report in California.
Yeah, so Camilla Moore, who's been intricately involved in this whole process, is a dear friend. And so I have watched this with great intrigue, one, to just support this incredible black woman who happens to be a well-trained attorney, just to watch her navigate this process. And, I have to be honest with you, politically, I have always been of the mindset that I am not certain that a federal piece of legislation is possible in terms of reparations, and not merely because of the roadblocks that would certainly exist from Republicans, but even, I would argue, a substantial number of Democratic lawmakers who represent districts or states where such a support of such a piece of legislation would not be very popular. And so that's one thing. And I want to be clear on what I think are the political, at the federal level, components of this, right? But in terms of whether or not I think there needs to be some form of a reparation, generally speaking, I would probably lean on the side of yes. I mean, I've studied this for a long time, trying to figure out how do you equal the playing field economically between blacks and whites? How do you level that playing field? And we are so behind. I mean, I was looking at the last Urban League report that showed that we have actually seen regression in several categories. And so essentially what I'm saying, the Urban League, every 10 years, they produce a report, the State of the Black America, or every couple of years. And when you looked at education, we're starting to go backwards now. Home ownership, we're going backwards now. All of these metrics, we see a little progress, then we go back. A little progress, then we go back. And COVID certainly did not help. And so as you're constantly looking at maybe 3 steps forward but 2 steps back, it's just like, okay, so maybe we're moving 1 step every decade. How long will that take for us to catch up? I just don't see any way to level that playing field outside of trying to figure out how do you foster an environment for blacks to have access to a substantial amount of capital that can ultimately lead to sustainability. Now, with that, I will say this, and this is where I sometimes would disagree with my friends who really are focusing on reparations. I think if there are going to be some type of a cash payment, I think looking at college education, perhaps having that free for African Americans is one big thing that I'm a big proponent of. I listened to your remarks in terms of following the model of nonprofits. I think there's a lot of viability in that. But also I think if there are going to be some type of cash payments, which a lot of folks are advocating for, my thing is we have to make sure that our people have a substantial amount of financial literacy, so a greater percent of us know how to properly maintain those cash payments. And a big concern that I have is that if some states, let's say 20 years down the line, start to say, okay, we are going to do this now, I'm afraid that you're going to have a substantial amount of people in our community, particularly those who need this most of our folks in our inner cities, that just don't have the knowledge in trying to understand, how do I best utilize this money to work for me and my family for generations to come? And that's because we historically just have not been taught those things. And so one of my caveats has been, okay, if we're going to do the cash payment, if that's going to be a component of this, then there needs to be financial literacy tied to it. That is just non-negotiable to me.
But sure, Michael, do you think that sort of plays into a stereotype around black folks and money? You know, do you think that part of the reason why some people may have just such a mental hurdle that they have to overcome, you know, around being supportive of cash payments as a component, not the component, as a component of reparations? Do you think part of the reason why that mental hurdle exists for folks, particularly folks that are not black, is because there are these stereotypes that persist that black folks are somehow not good with our money? I mean, and doesn't that fly in the face of the success that we're seeing with sort of universal basic income programs that are being launched on the local level in cities across the country, where, you know, you're having this sort of, you know, change in schools of thought where people are saying, well, instead of creating a new program, why not just, you know, give, you know, direct payments to individuals, to families, and allow them, you know, to spend that money how they see fit?
Yeah, that's a good point. I have some thoughts on the cash payments, and I don't want to necessarily veer into that. I've seen some of the reports on cash payments and the success, but I also have some issues that I think could have negative implications for businesses and overall economy, generally speaking. So I don't want to get too much into that. But to answer your question, though, the foundation of your question, which is, does this sort of play into stereotypes about us not being good with finances? Maybe it does. Maybe it does. But I know that I look at the data on black people and our spending habits, a significant percent of people in our community, and we do not have the best spending habits. I mean, the Urban League, they sort of talk about this. If you ever read a plethora of their reports over the past couple of years now, that's always been a big thing. While there's been this big push of we should buy black, we should invest black, we should put our money into black banks, et cetera. And it's not to be stereotypical. We just don't have the knowledge, man. People, you can't fault people for not knowing what they do not know. You just can't. But I know, as someone who spent a lot of time in politics at the legislative level and the electoral side, I know where some of the shortcomings are. And so my thing is, hey, I have to be a part of the process of educating my people about investments, about real estate, about land. All of these things we traditionally have not had access to because we just haven't had the money. And so I think as we have these conversations in terms of building black wealth, ultimately that needs to lead to sustaining black wealth. All of that comes with having the knowledge of how to properly manage finances. And so whether or not that plays into the stereotypes about us not being good with money, maybe they do, maybe it doesn't, but I know what the data says. And so the data from my perspective tells me, okay, if you're going to be a part of these conversations, you need to make sure you're educating your people on the dollar so that we can maximize this with our knowledge. But when a person isn't knowledgeable on something, you cannot fault them for making bad decisions. And so I don't fault a lot of us for not having the best spending habits. Like, well, hey, no one's taught us, hey, guys, put this into a 401k, put this into a mutual fund, an IRA, buy some land, buy a property, or, hey, when a person passes on, don't just sell the house, keep it into the family so it can become a rental property. No one's taught us these things, man. So I don't fault our people for not having the knowledge, but a lot of us, young educated people in particular, we're more educated than generations in the past. We've been given opportunities that a lot of our other brothers and sisters, even in our own families, don't have. And so the burden is on us.
Well, you're right. The burden is on us, but the burden is shared. And we're going to talk about that burden and so many others, including the burden created by last week's series of Supreme Court decisions that are of consequence. We're talking to Sir Michael Singleton, and we'll be joined by Dr. David Johns, Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition, when we come forward. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former Vice President Mike Pence is defending his decision to certify the 2020 presidential election results following the Capitol riot. While on the campaign trail in Sioux City, Iowa this week, a woman questioned Pence, claiming he had the constitutional power to block the certification of electoral college results and prevent Joe Biden from becoming president. Pence disrupted her claim, saying the Constitution is clear that he did not have the power to do so. The California Task Force on Reparations wants the state to get rid of interest on late child support for black residents. The state's Reparations Task Force said discriminatory laws have torn black families apart as they are disproportionately affected by child support debt. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hazard listed headed through Lakeview Terrace, taking the drive on the 210 East 210 at Wheatland. Look out for a large metal object in center traffic lanes. Had troubles on the 210 West around Sierra Madre. Looks like that activity is wrapped up. Baldwin Park, the 605 North to the 10 East transition. We had a collision from earlier. That's finally gone from the shoulder there. Long Beach on the 710 North as you get to the 405 South. We're still seeing a stalled vehicle here. That has slowed the drive from at least Anaheim Street. Troubles in the Sepulveda Pass, the 405 South, Getty to Moraga. Looks like all traffic lanes are stopped as they try to clear a wreck. We're loaded up as far back as Victory.
It's your last chance to shop July 4 savings at Lowe's. Right now, get up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 7/12. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
DeMar Smith, president of the National Football League Players Association, is calling for the NFL to get rid of the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was implemented 20 years ago with the intent of improving diversity hiring in the NFL, specifically black head coaches. Smith called the Rooney Rule a failure. When the NFL implemented the Rooney Rule in 2003, the league had 2 black head coaches. 20 years later, only 3 of the league's 32 teams have a black head coach entering the 2023 season. Francis Tiafoe, the only black American male competing at Wimbledon, has a second-round match this morning with Dominic Stricker of Switzerland. The 25-year-old Tiafoe is ranked 10th in the world. He's trying to win his first Grand Slam tennis major. The Dodgers wrap up their 4-game series with Pittsburgh tonight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Buying your dream home can be exciting, but it might take some sacrifice. But don't worry, Rocket is here to give you a hand. If you buy with Rocket Homes and finance with Rocket Mortgage, you could get up to $10,000 cash toward closing from Rocket Mortgage. That's a big deal. Why not see how Rocket can help you start your legacy? You got this, and Rocket's got you. Only with Rocket. Visit onlywithrocket.com to get started.
For purchase transactions, only must like rate between 331 and 831. Call 8337-ROCKET for conditions and restrictions. Allows a rental license in all 50 states. NMLS Consumer Access.org, number 3030.
Want my secret for how to prep for summer getaways and get-togethers and get everything for less? Get to Kohl's. I just went and saved an extra 20% on sunny day essentials, like tees for my husband for $9.99, an adorable sport for my daughter, plus all the grilling tools we needed for a great barbecue. So get to Kohl's and save on cool finds for hot days. You'll thank me later. Select styles, 20% offer ends July 9. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
She's so smooth, so... I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
Moments like my daughter telling me a new joke mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
To my hometown, my community. Some of you have known me my whole life. Do you notice anything different about the kids in the neighborhood? Ever paid attention? You might start with gifts, money, attention. These are signs. Child trafficking is happening right here in this town. So don't just watch through the window. Pay attention. Because the more we know, the more we'll all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at no-to-say-no.com.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for our big brother, Tavis Smiley, who is off today. And I'm in good company right now. We got Michael Singleton, who is a political commentator and host of the Michael Singleton Show on Sirius XM. I'm also now joined by our brother, Dr. David Johns, who is executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition. Welcome to the Tavis Smiley Show, brothers.
Hey, brothers. It's good to be in company.
It's great to be in company with both of you. Dr. Johns, just before the break, Michael and I were talking about reparations. The California Reparations Task Force has issued their final report, which includes, hundreds of proposals, so many different ways in which our home state of California can do right by the historical injustices of our people. I want to give you a chance to sort of weigh in, on this Herculean effort that has the attention of not just people here in California, but folks across the country and around the world.
Yeah, I'm really thankful for the ongoing labor and love expended by leaders who understand that our country cannot live up to its founding promises unless and until it atones for the damages that continue to be done to descendants of enslaved Africans. I want to name the work of Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who hopefully will have a new elevated title shortly, as well as of our brother, Dr. Marcus Hunter, who is a part of the Breathe With Me Coalition. We were really honored, and BJC was honored to stand with them as Representative Cori Bush introduced their most recent reparations piece of legislation, and look forward to the work that is being done in California and other places like St. Louis, being replicated at the federal level as well. So it's beyond time that this government runs us our money, and thinking about Queen Beyonce and the Renaissance tour that they also pay us in equity.
Yeah, Dr. Dave Johns said, run us our check.
Period.
But sure, Michael, as we were saying earlier, I mean, a check is just one component of it, right?
One component. I mean, I don't. It certainly can't be the complete component. I mean, the amount of money that's sort of been estimated based on inflation changing the dollar since the original promise. I mean, you're talking, I think $16 to $20 trillion. Our deficit right now is over $31 trillion. And so I don't think that's even feasible. But there has to be, I would agree, some level of a cash component. You already know what my position is on that, but I think, again, you got to look at college education. I think it should be afforded to African Americans. And I know there's also this debate about Africans from the diaspora, generally speaking. I'm just going to be very blunt. I do not support that. I don't think reparations should be paid to every person who happens to be black. I'm just being very candid. And that's where I also may differ with some individuals who support reparations, generally speaking. So I just think that there has to be a multifaceted component in terms of trying to make black people whole. Education, economics are just two of the most important ones to me. And I think within those two, there are different sectors in terms of how to really help us catch up to our white counterparts.
Now, politically, we are brothers, but politically we see things, a little bit different. And so I was, delighted to see that, we are, fairly on the same page when it comes to, the question around reparations and what that could mean for our communities. But, I've got to ask you just a follow-up question, Sir Michael, with regard to the American descendants of slaves. And so, I am Ghanaian American. My father was born and raised in Ghana. My mom was born and raised in Florida. They met in Texas and had me many years later in California, right? And so and so it's always been interesting to me hearing folks, say, well, I support reparations, but for folks that aren't, 100% American descendants of slaves, not for them. Help square that for me and help square that for our audience in terms of your position on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm from the South, and my family in Mississippi on my father's side still owns the land that my I think maybe 3 or 4 great-grandfathers purchased from the person who freed him and his wife. So I know exactly where I'm from for the most part. And while many blacks may not have documented historical facts to say, hey, my family comes from here or there, for the most part, I think a lot of black people have some level of oral history. And I think in terms of slavery, in the U.S. economy paying back some type of a dividend, I think you have to pay it back first and foremost to the people who were originally impacted by slavery. And that is African Americans or who were descendants who were directly enslaved, and not those who may have come from other aspects of the overall diaspora. And that's not to say in modern terms that those black people have not dealt with slavery or racism or discrimination. Modern terms, maybe over the past couple of decades. That's not what I'm saying. But I just think it's really, really difficult in my mind to make a case for individuals who were not brought to the United States against their will. My ancestors had no choice. Others immigrated here. That's a choice. And that's where I sort of draw the delineation.
Yeah, and Dr. David Johns, I know you talk a lot about this. We've talked a lot about this. How there are levels to the generational trauma that was experienced by black folks who are the descendants of the enslaved, and even those who may be the descendants of the enslaved on one side of their family or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Brother Sir Michael and think that this is where it's important for us to have more global conversations about what reparations looks like. There was a window into this for me recently with the coronation of the new symbolic figurehead of Great Britain and Europe. And there was a moment in which we acknowledged that the wealth that was displayed so lavishly is a result of raping and pillaging of the continent. And the diaspora heretofore us ensuring not only that property that has been stolen is returned to Africa and the diaspora happens, but that the wealth that people continue to hoard, in particular white colonizers continue to hoard, is distributed in ways that look much more like reparations in the ways that we talk about it here. All of that to say that there should be shared investments made to provide reparations by those who continue to benefit from our ancestors' labor connected to the Trans-Pacific, transatlantic, and other forms of colonial enslavement.
Well, so moving from colonial enslavement to legacy admission, I want to get Sir Michael and Dr. David Johns' take on how activists have spurred by the affirmative action ruling, how they're challenging legacy admission at Harvard. This is a case that everybody across the country is talking about that has far-reaching repercussions to the future of folks in American colleges and universities and beyond. We're going to get their take when we come forward. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job training starting at $19.10 per hour, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus is a great employer. Let Culver City Bus connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in the community, then you are invited to join the Culver City Bus team. Start your journey today by submitting an application at culvercity.org/job. For more info, visit culvercitybus.com or call live customer service operators at 310-253-6500.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action is the youth component of the impactful CBO, known as the Community Coalition. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action has chapters at almost every South LA high school. Say Yeah, as they are popularly known, is located at 80th and Vermont, but serves young people all over South LA. Under the COCO umbrella, they train youth organizers, help underserved scholars prepare for college, and work with students to help them gain admission to top universities. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action fosters teen activism, where young people have led campaigns moving tens of millions of dollars to South LA schools and forcing officials to make AP classes available to students in under-resourced institutions. SCES scholars have taken part in the March on Washington, been published in major news outlets, and been elected to city council. Long before she was mayor, Karen Bass started the program when she founded the Community Coalition. To donate, volunteer, or enroll a student in South Central Youth Empowered Through Action, please visit cocsouthla.org. cocsouthla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soul Finger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the great Otis Redding's band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/Black community.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey in conversation with my brothers, Sir Michael Singleton. If that name sounds familiar to you, it should. He's a political commentator and host of the Sir Michael Singleton Show on Sirius XM. Also, my brother, Dr. David Johns, who is the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition. Also, shout out to Pretty Brown Mimi, who is streaming the show right now on YouTube. We appreciate your comment. It's nice to see you too, or at least see your comment there. And so before we went to the break, we were talking about legacy admission. A civil rights group is challenging legacy admission at Harvard University, saying that the practice discriminates against students of color by giving an unfair boost to the mostly white children of alumni. The practice of giving priority to the children of alumni has faced growing pushback in the wake of last week's Supreme Court decision ending affirmative action in higher education. The NAACP added its weight behind the effort on Monday, asking more than 1,500 colleges and universities to even the playing field in admission, including by ending legacy admission. Dr. David Johns, you are an expert on all things higher education, from the work that you did in the Senate for Senator Ted Kennedy, the work that you did in the Obama White House, and the work you're doing at the National Black Justice Coalition. What's your take on this attack on legacy admission?
Yes, I'm responding to the word attack, as I think it's an invitation for us to meet the Supreme Court justices where they are and talk about what fairness means, acknowledging that words matter. And I just want to also name that I have a lot of personal experience that I bring to this, having been a student at Columbia where I've done 3 tours of duty. And what I know is that in the fall of 2003, there was a convergence of ignorance and privilege where my very white, very privileged counterparts wanted to have an active debate about affirmative action, one without acknowledging that that policy has disproportionately benefited white women, and that institutions like Columbia, as private institutions, they did not have affirmative action policies or practices, but they did have legacy practices. So as researchers, Doctor, we like to talk about numbers. So let's talk about Harvard's college statistics for the class of 2027. Black students made up about 15.3% of accepted undergraduates. Asian Americans made up about 29.9, almost 30% of undergraduates. And Latinx students made up about 11.3%. Native American and Native Hawaiian students are combined. They're about 2.7%, which means that nearly half, really around 40.8% of accepted undergraduate students at Harvard are presumed to be white. Only 4% of that nearly 50% are not legacy students. The vast majority of students that Harvard admits are white, and the vast majority of those students fall into one of 3 categories. They are legacy. They have a relationship to people who have already been invited into this very privileged space. They're on a donor list. Their parents have enough money, often acquired probably by the labor of others that they have benefited from, where they can buy a building or endow a program, or they play an elite sport like fencing or lacrosse, something that, again, is a form of gatekeeping. These things are problematic when we think about the ways that historically white institutions preserve spaces for people that don't earn those spaces. And this case, I hope, will provide us with an opportunity to actually have a meaningful conversation about what merit means within our meritocracy and the role of post-secondary institutions or higher education institutions in our country in sorting and selecting students into already established categories with regard to social access and work opportunities.
Sure, Michael, what was your take on the Supreme Court decision, and do you support this movement towards getting rid of legacy admission, banning the practice of legacy admission? Do you support that?
Well, I wasn't surprised for 2 reasons. Being a conservative, I know the conservative bent of the court. So when I saw the social media post about it, I said, well, wow, why in the hell are people so surprised that a conservative-leaning court decided to decide that affirmative action was unconstitutional? No surprise there. But also, too, not only depending my analysis on the current ideological bend of the court, but I think the case by the Asian students was actually a pretty legitimate case. And if you actually read their original lawsuit way before it got to the Supreme Court, what they were essentially accusing Harvard of was discriminating against Asian students, although Asians represent a far larger percent of the overall population than blacks. Nevertheless, I thought that they had some substantial grounds based on the evidence that they had presented. So that's another reason why I wasn't surprised. With that said, do I agree with it? Man, of course I don't agree with it. So many people, my grandmother, PhD, my mother, advanced degrees, and a lot of these people went to some of the best institutions in part because institutions realize, holy smoke, we don't have enough diversity. We want to select some of the best members of various different groups to try to change that. And a lot of people in my own family who've done exceptionally well were benefactors of affirmative action. So it would be hard for me to be against it with that. I think it's brilliant to go after legacy admissions. I cannot tell you how many times I have been in rooms as a conservative, other Republicans, with folks who went to Ivy League schools. I went to Morehouse undergrad, and they go, oh, yeah, I went to Harvard or Yale or Princeton. And then we start talking about policy, or we're talking about complex data metrics and the quantification process. And then I realized these people were idiots. They had a degree that literally meant nothing.
Well, more when we come forward with Sher Michael and Dr. David Johns. I want to ask you both in our remaining moments about the impact of this decision, the lingering impact of this decision on HBCUs. And is there, a way in which this could be a boon to historically black colleges and universities? We are going to hear from them when we come forward. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-381-8528 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-381-8528. That's 800-381-8528. What do you have to lose? Call 800-381-8528. Again, 800-381-8528.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back with Shermichael Singleton, host of the Shermichael Singleton Show on SiriusXM. Also, Dr. David Johns, Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition. Shermichael, you are a Morehouse man. Tell us, what lingering effect do you think this decision might have in the short term or long term on HBCUs, including but not limited to Morehouse?
I think positive, and my hope is positive. We've talked a lot about black empowerment here economically. I've mentioned education quite a few times. And my hope is that people in our community will see that historically black colleges and universities are just as good as PWIs. I would even argue better.
And Dr. David Johns, I want to ask you, because National Black Justice Coalition is always in the work of liberation. I'm really excited about the Out on the Hill program that you all have coming up this fall. Talk to us about how this past week's decisions on the Supreme Court may be instructive to how you all are organizing Out on the Hill for fall 2023.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Our theme as we look forward to Out on the Hill is being on the outlook, being aware of both threats and opportunities. And the Supreme Court has provided us with a lot of information to inform that strategy. We've talked a lot about the twin affirmative action decisions, but I want to name that the day after that those decisions were rendered, the Supreme Court also delivered decisions around 303 Creative, a case that is now opening the door to state-sanctioned discrimination against people on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, but people who also have skin that's been kissed by the sun or who otherwise are members of racial ethnic communities should expect to see increased moments of public discrimination as a result of the Supreme Court's disposition in that case as well. I want to underscore the points that my good brother made and celebrate that the legacy of Africans throughout our country and really the continent of Africa is one of thriving in spite of naming that many of our HBCUs were founded by white folks and that we leverage those opportunities and the resources poured into them to create safe spaces for every member of our community to thrive. I just want to celebrate that there are opportunities for us to dig in and do more. And by us, I mean members of the alumni community and those who didn't go to an HBCU but also understand the importance of them at this moment. Each of us have the tools, the skills, the resources to lean in and fill gaps for students that will face challenges to no fault of their own. but to otherwise address the significant challenges that affect our lived experience. I'm thinking specifically about the implications of denied post-secondary opportunities for us to have doctors and medical professionals who understand how to address persistent health disparities. I'm thinking about the need for us to have more counselors and people working in mental health who are able to help us navigate all of the trauma that we're dealing with at present.
That's right. Our thanks to Dr. David Johns, Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition. Also, our thanks to Sir Michael Singleton, host of the Sir Michael Singleton Show. Brothers, you are Black excellence personified. We thank you for joining us here on the Tavis Smiley Show. Come back again soon.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.